Hey everyone, welcome back. In today's video, I wanted to start a new series on the channel. Yes, don't worry, the sub-special, underrated and overrated, and style concepts are all still going to be dropping soon. But before that, I feel like this series is one that's pretty important. Today, I wanted to start my new fight improvement series, where I help coach newer or lower ranked players get better at the game. Now, what exactly do I mean by this? Well, what I hope is that through the community's support, you all can send me fights you had where you lost or struggled, and I can break down mistakes made and how to correct them. But before I ask for you guys' help, I'd like to set the ground rules a bit by first going over each style type. A style type is a category in which certain styles can be placed into. Certain traits, like range, speed, and power define these categories. If you haven't already, George breaks down the basics of these styles pretty well, so go check out that video if you want more info. Anyway, let's just get started. Earlier, I polled to see which style types you all struggle with the most, and by far, Outboxer seemed to hold the majority vote. Now, this doesn't surprise me at all, since the entire Discord has been up in arms about nerfing Hitman and Long Guard for a while now. While Long Guard I can understand, Hitman just seems like the butt of the joke every single update. For the past few big balance changes, Hitman has been getting hit with consistent power creep and nerfs to either its base damage or its guard breaking. Personally, I don't struggle much with Hitman anymore, maybe because I lived through that era where everyone was using it, but now it just seems like a glorified mythic. It no longer has unique ultimate damage, since Ippo, Iron Fist, and Trickster all creeped up on it, and now someone who wants to outbox is better off just using Long Guard due to its higher damage. But enough about Hitman. Today, let's learn how to beat outboxers. When fighting outboxers, there are 5 big tips to survive these kinds of fighters. 1. Don't try to attack first, be patient. 2. Know their light attack patterns. 3. Get better at timing dashes and press forward while blocking. 4. Don't be afraid of taking hits if needed. And lastly, 5. Keep forward pressure and try to get them to the ropes. Alright, first, let's talk about patience. Now, I have played this game for a while, so I understand how frustrating it can be to not be able to attack these guys if they play really passive and use their range and speed as a crutch, especially if they taunt you. However, if you charge in without thinking, you'll just be pushed away and chipped to death. This is exactly what the Outboxer wants. These guys like to take their time and don't care about your fun at all, they just want to win. So, in order to beat them at their own game, be patient. If you just suddenly stop moving, maybe emote a few times, eventually they will probably get reckless and try to attack you, in which case, you dodge that attack and apply pressure. By using their own tactic against them, it puts them into a situation they can't win, since it's either none of you win, or they break first. Another thing to keep in mind is never swing first. Usually, if you keep waiting them out, they will try to feint moving in, but will really just hover back after stepping in a little. It's all just to get you to slip up and throw a punch, so that while you are still in cooldown from whiffing, they can pressure you from afar. So, keep a cool head, and don't let them being passive fool you. Believe me, once they see you in that corner emoting, something's going to make them snap, which allows you to attack. Next up, and probably one of the most crucial steps, knowing their light attack patterns. The way this game works is simple. Heavies are the slower attack with less range, and lights are the quicker attack with more range. See what I'm getting at here? I guarantee you, no good outboxer will ever use their heavies to start combos, since they are super easy to see coming and don't have nearly as much range and speed as their lights. You see, light attacks are outboxers' bread and butter. They will use those attacks for 90% of the match, and will only heavy to catch a mistake or after a perfect dodge. So, what can you do about this? Simple, learn the possible attacks and the way they switch around. See, certain styles will switch the hand they use for lights, either whenever they land an attack or whenever they whiff one. Styles like Long Guard, for example, will switch hands if it hits you with a light attack or if it whiffs a heavy attack. This knowledge will help you predict which hand will throw the light next, allowing you to better defend yourself. Hitman works differently, however, since no matter what, Hitman's jabs will always strike your right side. So, dashing to the right is critical to avoiding these, and in most cases, you should never dash left. By doing this, you can better set up for perfect dodging, and make the Hitman panic because once you can time a perfect dodge on the Hitman's jab, their entire style shatters. Another thing to think about are the way hitboxes work. Much like in real life, the hand in front of you has a lot of range, while the rear hand has less. This is the same in UBG, as due to the way hitboxes work, the left hand will always be able to hit you from further away than the right can. This applies to all forms of attack, and is why sometimes you can land a punch once, then instantly whiff the next one from the same range. It's just that the rear hand can't reach as far as the lead hand. So, what does all that mean? Well, if you know Long Guard's next jab is a left, or just during the whole fight with a Hitman, you want to avoid moving in directly forward. Take awkward angles and zigzag towards them, and it'll make those jabs a lot harder to land. Another very important step to learning how to counter an outboxer is learning that defense is everything. Using both your block and your dashes to the best of your abilities is crucial to learning how to beat these players. So, how exactly do you learn the timing? The best way for me was just playing the game a lot, and getting more experience. While I still suck at dodging Long Guard, I've gotten better at dodging Hitman just from how often I'd face them. What I recommend is, if you have a friend who has an outboxing style, or if you meet someone with an outboxing style in a lobby, ask if you can train with them. Some of them will say no, but a lot of the time people don't usually mind practicing with you for a while. If you don't have the time to train, however, just do your best and see if you can learn naturally. While longer and harder to do, eventually after facing so many opponents using a certain style, you'll be able to dodge more effectively. However, another thing that is super important when facing these boxers is to always walk forward with your block. I don't see nearly enough players using this strategy, but it effectively eliminates most of the risk of people running away. This is because most fighters will attack until only a little bit of stamina is left, to which, they will then begin to walk away. By walking with them instead of backing up, this applies constant pressure since, 1, they can't attack or their stamina will break, and 2, if they try to dash back, their stamina will be completely gone, allowing you to dash in and get hits. By walking forward while blocking, you can also push them away from where they are the strongest, the middle. In the center of the ring, outboxers have a lot of space to run, and you won't have a lot of space to avoid those long-reaching attacks, so whenever you can, avoid letting them get into center ring. The fourth tip I have for you all is to not be afraid of taking hits from these guys. Usually, outboxers are pretty weak in terms of power, so if one is shredding your block, just unblock and tank the lights. Those light attacks won't deal nearly as much damage as the damage you'll take if your block shatters, so don't be scared of these guys. Better to lose health that you can heal than to lose a chunk of health permanently. A side note here, this also applies when you are being pressured by any style, especially if your health is low enough to be killed by an ultimate. If you know they have their ultimate, and they have your block low, it's better to unblock and tank the hits, just so you have enough block meter left to defend the ultimate. Lastly, and one of the hardest to do, keep them away from the center and do your best to pressure them to the ropes. I mentioned this in passing, but once again, outboxers thrive in center ring, so keeping them away from there makes it a lot easier to fight them. You can force them back in many ways: 1, by pressuring, slowly but surely forcing them back, 2, letting them run away until they hit the ropes, or 3, by knocking them down close enough to the ropes to where the next round starts beside them. Now, why do you want to get them to the ropes? Well, fun fact, the ropes have collision, meaning that they can effectively stop people from dashing if they attempt to dash into them. What this means is, by pushing them to the ropes, you cut off one of their escape routes, meaning that the only way around you is to either side or to force you back. Outboxers don't do well under pressure, since it's much easier for an infighter or boxer puncher to deal quick and constant damage than it is for them while on the ropes. And coupled with the fact they can't even back up to avoid them, that makes the ropes a bad spot to be when fighting an infighter type. However, the best possible place to force an outboxer is the corner, since that cuts off 3 escape routes. Dashing back is impossible, and dashing to either side is much harder to do since there's a chance the rope catches you anyway, so if you get an outboxer here, try to keep them there. And that's my tips for fighting outboxers. Hopefully this helps players better understand their flaws. Remember, just because they're fast and have good range, that doesn't mean you can't beat them. Just remember, be patient, learn their light attack patterns, learn to perfect dodge them, walk forward while blocking, apply constant pressure, don't be afraid to take hits, and lastly, keep them away from the center of the ring. Anyway, that's all from me. See ya.